Part 5. This is GDC time. And I haven't really wrote it, so I'm gonna write as I talk. Let's see. This is what I have written so far. So I'm going to read that and then I'm just going to start talking and typing as I go. So GDC was 13 years of my life where I knew extremely low times and I felt things so deep, like almost on a different level than others. By the end of my 8-hour shift, I was mentally drained. And if you're not familiar with GDC, it is a 24-hour state facility. It houses mental retardation and mental health patients. This facility has the majority of its own professions. It requires, like I said, this is a home, and there is several patients there. I'm going to say 50 plus. They have their own dentist, medical doctor's vision. Anything that they would need like that is on hand at the facility. This facility was a very large part of my younger years. The first 13 years of my marriage, the first 13 years of being a mom, learning to face demons, accepting the fact that I felt things on a much deeper level than most people around me. This was extremely hard to figure out. And if you are not an empath, I'm going to explain just a tiny bit about what that feels like. And it is kind of like walking into a room where no one speaks, but you instantly can tell the mood of the room. Like I could walk in a room and I could read it in silence. Like I could read the mood in silence. So working at GDC, well, it was like being a babysitter for the minds of children, but the bodies of adults. And a lot of people that live there could not speak. They couldn't voice what they wanted. They couldn't physically tell you, hey, I have a pain. Hey, I'm hungry. Some could, and some did, very much. But a lot of people, like a lot of the people that live there, they really couldn't voice their opinions, their wants, their needs. And those people are the ones that I connected with the most. Like I used to wake up in the morning to get ready for work or evening, whichever shift I was on. Like I said, it was 24 hours and I worked all 3 shifts. So I would get ready for work and my anxiety would be so out of this world high. Like don't get me wrong, I loved the job. Like I met some of my favorite people there. Truly some of my favorite people there. And I met a lot of friends there. I don't necessarily talk to them, you know, life happens and you get busy. And like I said in the last video, Chrissy is very much a constant of mine. She is someone that I speak with every day. But I do have a lot of friends, acquaintances from GDC that I would not want to give up. So working there, like, was it a hard job? Absolutely. Like it was not necessarily a physically hard job, but like I said, you were responsible for multiple adult-sized humans that had the brain of a small child. So it was like dealing with toddlers. Very much like dealing with toddlers, and they because of the way that they thought, like the way that their brains work, they would have similar behaviors to a child. So if they didn't get their way or they wanted something, what does a child do? They throw a fit and drop to the floor and grab your hair or try to bite you. And that is a lot of the same things that would happen here. Like if somebody would have a problem, they would run at you and attack you. The difference being a small child cannot hurt you, not normally. And an adult coming at you with the mentality of a child does not know their own strength. And just like you and I, if we were to get upset and lash out at someone or go after someone, the strength that we have in that moment, we don't even know that we endure that type of strength. So if you are a person that doesn't have control over your own mind most of the time, then it would be very hard. Like I'm just saying, it's very hard for them. They do not know their own strength, and a lot of people get hurt. It was a very dangerous job. Not necessarily a physically hard job on a day-to-day basis. There was times that you would very much have to protect the clients. And I mean protect as in they would try to hurt themselves, pull anything, but they would just, so your job is to protect them. And that's what we would do. But still, I'm going to get back to this empath. When someone that worked there, lived there, worked there, I guess too, I could feel the emotion. So if they had a bad night at home, and they came in and maybe they didn't talk about it, but it was weighing on them, like I felt that. I felt the struggle that they had emotionally inside. And I too, I'm going to go about this. I too, at this time in my life, like I said, it was the first 13 years of my marriage, the first 13 years of being a mom, the first 13 years, 14 years after I'd lost my mother. So like this was all a new like learning experience, and it was very difficult for me at this time. My husband and I fought a lot. And I want to say that sometimes it was bad. Like my depression hit really hard for a minute. Like I cried a lot. There was times that I would sit in my home and think to God, if I was not here, would my husband and my child be happier without me? Because that is how I felt inside. Now I'm going to say very quickly here, let's see, Mike and I got married in 2002, and no, we got married in 2003. And we started marriage counseling, I think it was 2006. I want to say it was 2006. And we started marriage counseling because, like I said, we bickered back and forth all the time. It was like we didn't know how to communicate. It was a constant fight. And I don't necessarily know that it was him trying to fight with me. It was me not knowing how to deal with everything that was happening in my life at that moment. Like so much was going on. And like I said, even with him, like say he would have a rough time at work or whatever, and this is still true to this day. If he comes home from work and he's had a rough day or he has something on his mind and he's a little stressed, and it has nothing to do with me, I feel it. And I constantly am like, are you mad? What's wrong? Are you okay? Like, what did I do? And now in our life, he will say, Daz, it's not you. I'm just stressed out. And I'm like, okay, because now I know to accept it, and it is okay for other people to have stress, and it truly have nothing to do with me. But in my GDC years, I didn't know how to do that. I had no clue how to do that. Like I said, it could be, there was parts of that job and that time in my life that was just extremely hard. But quitting was never an option. Like, I'm not saying that Mike and I didn't fight and we didn't throw out the word divorce and, the big fuck you back. We had that. But at the end of the day, like, it was never an option. Like, I was never, ever going to leave him, even though I said I probably was. I was like, I'm fine, I'm out of here. But like deep down, like I knew from the moment that I laid my eyes on him that he was mine. And I was never giving him up, ever. Like when I said till death do us part, I meant it. And I still to this day mean it. I love him with every part of my being. But that doesn't mean that our life was always rainbows and butterflies. Trust me, it was not. Okay, so back in GDC, like I worked multiple different areas there. I met multiple different people. My favorite part of that job was working with the clients that did have, quote, more behaviors, but they also were, they were vocal and they had personality. And I'm not saying that the clients that were nonverbal did not have personality. I'm saying I myself never truly was comfortable communicating with them, and I don't know why, but I will say that it was really hard for me to communicate with someone that was nonverbal, and maybe that's because I'm such a talker. I don't know. But I always enjoyed, like it was, quote, the behavioral end of the facility, and I met some of my favorite people. I'm going to throw out a few names here. Renee Simpson, someone that I met at GDC, and I will forever treasure. Do I talk to her a lot? I do not, but I love her very much, and she will always be someone that is very special to my heart. Chloe Pearson is also someone that I love very, very much, and I, again, met her while at GDC. I already mentioned my two besties from there, Molly and Chrissy. They are very, very much special people to me. Also, there was a lady named Tina Ellis that for a minute, her and I were really, really close for a minute. She's someone else that I will never forget. Like, she is someone that I will never forget. There was another lady that I thoroughly enjoyed working with, and that was a lady named Teresa Bowers. And she was someone else that I will never, ever forget. There was a few, like I said, there was a lot of people I met there, a lot of people that, but those ones that I named are truly people that I hold dear to my heart. Like, I would be there for them at any given time. So, okay. I worked at GDC from 2003 until, I want to say April or May of 2014. 2014? I think it was 2014. So I initially started there in 2001 and I left there in 2014. So yesterday I talked a little bit about Michael, my husband, and his careers, and he is a very, very constant person. And the job that he has now, he has had for quite a long time. I'm going to say, and that is with Rumpke. He has been there since he went back, and he will probably work there until retirement. Me, on the other hand, I left GDC in 2014. I in the meantime had, let's see, Braden was born in 2003. I got my own camera, which was a Canon Rebel. And a guy named John Summers, which is also somebody that I considered a really great friend of mine while I was working there. John and I haven't talked in years since I left, but he and his wife and children were a family that I thoroughly loved during my time there. He's the one that suggested that I get a Canon Rebel to start out with, and I did. It was like 2006, I want to say. I got my first camera, and because my husband, again, I'm going to say that he has been an asshole. I'm not going to say that he can't be an asshole, because he can. Big, huge, giant. But as far as spoiling and loving me, I've never, ever been loved the way that I've never been unconditionally loved by somebody the way that he loves me. So back to this camera, like, I wanted to be a photographer. I always had a camera in my hand, and taking pictures of my own child, just the little square ones that look kind of like a phone, a point and shoot camera. And he agreed to let me buy a Rebel. Now, mind you, this is 18 years ago, probably close to 18 years ago. And a Canon Rebel was $1,000 back then. And that wasn't a lot of money, but for us as, young, newly married, definitely not having money management skills, he did buy me the Canon Rebel. And when I got it home, I was so excited. And I couldn't take a clear picture. I had never had a fancy camera. I had no idea how to use it. So it took me a minute to figure out that there is that is a manual focus and an autofocus. And when I got the camera and the lens, it was automatically set on manual focus. Dumbass here had no clue how to do that. Now, mind you, over the last 18 years, I feel like I have become very handy with a camera. I was able to build a career out of that. And that is currently and forever what I will be, is a photographer. And that is because I have never been trained. I've never went to school. I truly just picked up a camera. And it came natural, and it still does. Now, granted, I do know, obviously it's been, close to 20 years, so I do know a little bit more now, but still, as far as lingo and knowledge about actual terminology, I probably don't know it. Now, if you ask me to show you what something does, I definitely can do that. Back to GDC, Molly, I spoke about her yesterday. She and I went on vacation. We were in, I want to say Nashville. And I had just just a regular old camera, nothing major. And obviously I had it with me all the time. And I took pictures of us, and when I came back, I had, done a little editing on them, sent them to her, and she printed them, and she was like, Des, I really think that this is something that you should pursue. Like, you're really good at it. And I was like, really? Like, you think I could do something with it? And she was like, I definitely think you could do something. So that was what got the gears turning, and that is how I even got the thought in my head to actually make a career out of something that I enjoyed doing. So thank you, Molly, for that, because that has definitely changed my life. So now we are in 2014. I have left GDC, and I have built a photography career over, I want to say, the last 8 years. Now, while at GDC, which I'm not sure is the way now, like I said, I haven't been there for a minute, but back when I was there was, it was called a mandatory list, and if someone called in sick or they didn't have coverage for the upcoming shift, then you were mandated to stay over. And if they could get someone to come in, they would let you go home, but sometimes they couldn't, and you would have to work a full 16-hour shift. Were those hard? Fuck yes. So hard. But that was just something that came with the job. It was a good job. The pay was very great at the time. Like, it was an amazing pay job back in early 2000s. So I built this career in photography, like literally just by taking pictures of my closest friends and family. Like, I didn't have any advertisement, and then it was like every shoot I would get one really amazing shot. And the rest were okay. But there was just one that was like outstanding. And that was every time I took pictures, no matter where I was at. I would just come out with one shot that was just wow. And that's happening every time. Like, I got that wow factor is what kept me going through. Like, I just kept pushing through. It gave me, the feeling that it gives me to tell someone else that they're enough, that they're beautiful, that whatever God gave them is perfect. I can't explain what that makes me feel like inside, which is why I know that God placed me on this earth to be a person that shares love, like genuinely doesn't judge. And if you've ever came to me in photography, or you know me personally, I don't judge. I'm not a judger. I will come to you. You can come to me at any time. And I hope at the end of your session, you walk out and obviously you love your pictures, but you walk out with an entire different outlook on yourself because you have seen yourself through my eyes. That is my outlook on photography for me. So it comes to 2014, like I said, there was a mandation list, and I was on it for like the first 5 or 6 years I was there. And then when you got to the upper 50% of all employees there, then you got off of the mandation list. And that normally took around 5 years. So, which was the same for me. Around 5 or 6 years, I came off of the list and I didn't get mandated. So that was, like, I was building this career outside of GDC as a photographer, and because I knew that I didn't have to work over unless I chose to, that I could build, like I could schedule appointments and know that I could make it. So I did that for 8 years, actually built a clientele. Like I built people that trusted me. I had repeat customers. It started out like it was becoming a business. Like we had turned it into a business. Like we had made it, filed taxes on it, like it was a business. And let's see. I want to say it was 2013 or 2013. I want to say they had like they downsized and they had a layoff, and I did not get laid off, but due to the layoff, I was put back on that mandation list, and that put me in a bind because I did have a clientele that I had built, and I could no longer schedule sessions and guarantee that I could be there. Say I would have a session scheduled at 3:30, I would get off from GDC at 3:15, and the session would be just down the road. But now at 3:10, I'm told that I have to stay for another 8-hour shift. So a couple times of doing that and having to hurt my clients because I didn't have a choice. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have a choice to not cancel on them last minute. And I truly made a choice. Like I was like, I'm either going to stay in a job that at that time was talking about maybe shutting down, like they were downsizing and laying off, or should I just pursue this career that I built from the ground up? And I did. I left GDC and I pursued photography. And that is all of part 5. But part 6 actually gets back into my childhood. And I remember abuse from my childhood. That will come in part 6. Thank you guys.